talking about intentional choices and intentionality. And intentionality is a word that I use so many times a day. So this word is so important in what you're doing and creating the changes you want to create. A lot of the time I hear people say the word intend. So I intend to do this, or even I hope to do this, where when you're saying that, I intend to do this, you're creating an aim. You're creating a plan. Now, that word alone doesn't necessarily help. I intend to lose weight. I intend to go to this event and leave feeling really good. And those are all great. However, they don't give us actual direction in what to do. And if you don't know what to do, which, you wouldn't be here if all of this stuff was just stuff you were doing, then that would be great. But we need to actually create those pathways. And that's why you're here. So in the future, when you say, my intention is to do this, then we can take it one step further and actually be intentional, have intentionality, and behave in the ways that support what our intent is. So when it comes to your intake with your nutrition, when it comes to your habits and behaviors, the goal is to make intentional choices that align with the person you want to be, your values, whatever your goals are, short-term or long-term, how you want to feel. And this will apply in different situations. So, for example, if your intention is to perform well, like let's say that maybe you're in prep for a meet or a race or a contest, or maybe you're just really wanting to feel a lot better when you go to the gym and go crush a workout, then your eating and drinking needs to support and reflect that. And also your habits and behaviors support and reflect that. If that's what you want to perform well, then that eating enough is going to be important. That eating enough protein is going to be important. Drinking enough water is going to be important. Getting enough sleep is going to be important. Pushing yourself and being purposeful and intentional when you're actually doing that training session, that workout, whatever, as part of that is going to be really important. If your intention is to lose body fat, then your actions need to support and reflect that. You need to do what aligns with you being in a calorie deficit. You do need to focus on what your caloric intake is. That is going to be a factor for, let's say, when you go out to eat or when you have an event, or if it comes between making your own meal or ordering out sometimes, or just how you approach a certain meal if you are not making it yourself. That sleeping is important. That drinking water is important. That having high steps or high activity and movement in your day is important in that. If your intention is to have more energy, then your actions and intake need to support and reflect that. And so now you're seeing how you actually have a little more guidance on what to actually do to back up your intention. Let's go in a little bit further here. Now, I'm moving my face all the way. If you have an event, if you have something that you're struggling with and you really want to behave in ways that align with your intention, with your aim, with your goals, with the values, the way you want to feel, think about that. Think about how you want to feel during. Think about how you want to feel after. Those can be really, really big guiding lights for you. If your intention is to go, let's say you have an event a birthday party that you're going to tonight, but tomorrow you have a training session or you have a workout that you want to go and show the F up and crush that. You want to be able to get up in the morning and not feel hungover. Then that's going to guide you in how you approach that birthday party. It's going to guide you in if you drink or if you don't drink. And if you do drink, how many you're going to have. It's going to guide you in then approaching that. I'm going to definitely make sure that I'm drinking enough water. If I'm eating out, then I'm going to build my meal in a way that supports me feeling physically good and having energy for the next day. And I'm going to set a bedtime for myself so I can get a quality night's sleep. What food and drink I should say, do you really want? And how can you approach this in a way that aligns? This can go different ways. Maybe you're like, oh man, say you're going out to Mexican for that birthday party and you're like, yeah, but that cheesy gordita enchilada, all of the ooey gooeys, that's what I like. That is what sounds so good to me. But when you take it a step further, you're like, well, it sounds really good, but that's not going to align with what I want. But I do, I do want to have a meal that supports me and is delicious. So maybe you go and you say, well, maybe you're with someone that gets it and you say, hey, can I just have a bite of that? Or maybe you get a small side of something that is a little bit cheesier and ooey gooey, and you get a meal that is like a fajita where you get rice and you get vegetables and you get chicken. Leaning into your mindful eating and your hunger cues, your fullness cues, that's always going to be important here. Aligning those behaviors, what you're actually doing with what your intention is. This is always important when you're kind of out of your element and you're learning new skills. Also remembering that one food or one meal is not going to completely derail you. Let's say that one of your goals is changing your body composition. You want to lose body fat, for example, and you go out to this birthday party and you have a margarita and you have a meal that's a little bit more calorie dense versus one that you would make at home. Knowing that, one, there's many ways to approach this. You could prioritize that meal and build the rest of your day around it where you're still in the calorie range that supports a calorie deficit. Or you can say, you know what, I'm okay with this meal being over, and that is what I'm going to do, intentionally saying, hey, this meal this day is going to be a little bit higher calorie, and that is okay. Versus where a lot of people go into, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to put the blinders on and I'm just going to say F it and get these things. And then inevitably don't feel great the next day and feel very out of control and chaotic and guilty and ashamed and whatnot. So I 1000% of the time would rather you make an intentional choice of things being off than putting on the blinders. Always being honest with yourself and being open to learning from the experience, whatever it was, and really digging deep in there and just following through with integrity. And that may be something that you're learning how that feels for you. Integrity, how I would describe it is you're feeling whole, you're being honest, wholly honest with yourself. You're feeling at peace with your choice and you're able to move forward through it. So that's something to explore through as well. But being open and honest and aware and learning is huge as this versus a situation being something that creates a lot of stress or gets you stuck in a place of, I don't know what choice to make. I don't want to make the wrong one. Start to lean into intentionality here and learn from it. Remembering that when you make intentional choices, there is no room for guilt or shame. You chose that. And maybe there's space sometimes where you're like, yeah, that didn't work out so well. It's okay. All right. We are not there to ruminate in, I wish I could do something different. Just use that experience in how you're moving forward. You made the choice. It was intentional. You are now in a place of acceptance of that choice and saying, all right, well, let me use this to learn from. If I was going to do it differently, how would I have done it? Or maybe, you know what? I did not behave in ways that aligned. How would I have done it differently? I did not make intentional choices. How could I do it differently? But really aiming to make intentional choices as much as possible. This is what I'm doing. And then you can explore that afterwards so you can learn and move forward with more skills and experience. There will likely be push and pull involved. As much as we want to do all of the things and have all of the things, and that's just not the case, right? We can't always go out to eat and get alcoholic drinks every single time we go out to eat, let's say like 3 times a week, get whatever we want and dessert, and also have fat loss happen and feel like solid. So there's going to be push and pull in certain situations, just recognizing that. If fat loss is really, really important to you, knowing, you know what, like I can go out to eat. I definitely can still have fun. There's a lot of different parts of this experience than certain foods, and it doesn't need to be all about the foods. So let me pull back a little bit in, I'm going to have a margarita, but I'm not going to have dessert. And I'm going to get a meal that looks a little bit more basic and identifiable with macronutrients, prioritizes protein and vegetables, for example. Or, you know what, I'm not going to get an alcoholic drink. I'm not going to get dessert. And maybe you get a meal that is a little bit different, has a little bit more fat in there, for example, or something like that. Or you are choosing, you know what, I'm going to push into like, I'm going to like really just go for it. And I'm going to get a margarita, dessert, and whatever meal I want. And knowing that when you make that choice, it's very likely that you won't necessarily feel great the next day, that the scale may be up. It doesn't mean it's all fat, caveat there. It may pull you out of a calorie deficit if your goal is fat loss. And if you make that choice, it's okay, because you know that you can always go into the next day and behave in ways that align with fat loss. There is push and pull. And really, really remembering that intentionality allows you to create your experience. You are in the driver's seat when you make intentional choices. It isn't just doing what other people want or going with the flow. You choose, and that puts you like really, really in I'm hesitant to say a position of control. Let's say a position of power. It's empowering. It puts you into that position, and that can be scary. So I will say that can be scary. But when we look at what we're doing through a lens of how can I gain experience and grow from this, then that is empowering AF and kind of can push the fear to the side a little bit. This comes with honesty, integrity, and responsibility as well. So use intentionality as you go into this next week and just see where you can flex that muscle and grow that muscle.